tragedy has struck the gospel community. Beloved gospel legend Vanessa Knowles has passed away in a fatal crash that has left fans, family, and fellow artists in absolute shock. The details surrounding her sudden passing are heartbreaking, but the story behind her final moments reveals even more than what the headlines are saying. Stay with me, because this is a loss that has shaken the world of gospel music to its core. This heartbreaking news has sent ripples across the gospel world. Vanessa Knowles wasn't just a singer, she was a voice of hope, faith, and inspiration for millions. From her early days singing in church choirs to becoming one of gospel's most celebrated legends, her journey touched countless lives. And now, with her sudden passing in a fatal crash, fans everywhere are left grieving and searching for answers. But here's where the story takes a deeper turn. Behind the headlines, there are details about that tragic crash that most people haven't heard yet. We'll break down what really happened in those final moments, how the gospel community is reacting, and why Vanessa's legacy may be even more powerful now than ever before. In this video, we'll explore 5 major areas: the heartbreaking details of the crash itself, Vanessa's remarkable life and career, the immediate reaction from fans and fellow gospel artists, the impact of her loss on the industry, and finally, the lasting legacy she leaves behind. And trust me, some of the reactions and behind-the-scenes details may surprise you. By the end, you'll not only understand the weight of this tragedy, but also why Vanessa Knowles' story will never be forgotten. So grab a seat, because this is where it gets both emotional and unforgettable. Whenever a tragedy strikes someone as beloved as Vanessa Knowles, the first question fans want answered is simple. What really happened? The headlines gave us only fragments: a fatal crash, sudden loss, a community in shock. But the story behind those headlines paints a far more devastating picture. On the night of the crash, Vanessa was reportedly traveling home after attending a private event where she had performed for a small gathering of church leaders and family friends. It was meant to be a night of celebration and joy, filled with laughter, fellowship, and of course, her unforgettable voice. But as she left that event, no one could have predicted that it would be her final performance. According to early reports, Vanessa's car was involved in a collision on a stretch of highway that local residents have long described as dangerous. Witnesses recall the sound of screeching tires, followed by the sickening impact that echoed across the road. Emergency responders arrived within minutes, but by then, the damage was catastrophic. Despite their efforts, Vanessa did not survive. The authorities have since confirmed that the crash involved multiple vehicles, and while an official investigation is still underway, early indications suggest that weather conditions and high speed may have played a role. Some reports say another driver may have lost control, causing a chain reaction that left Vanessa caught in the middle of the devastation. What makes this even more heartbreaking is the timing. Vanessa was just days away from announcing a new project she had been working on quietly, a project that many believe would have marked a major turning point in her career. Instead, the gospel world was forced to wake up to the shocking news that one of its most cherished voices had been silenced in an instant. Fans who live near the crash site say a small memorial has already begun to grow on the side of the road. Flowers, candles, handwritten notes, and even vinyl records of her greatest songs have been placed there by people who felt the impact of her passing, whether they knew her personally or not. For many, this spontaneous tribute reflects how deeply Vanessa's music touched lives. She wasn't just a performer, she was a spiritual guide through song. And here's the part that makes the story even more difficult to process. Vanessa had recently spoken in an interview about living with gratitude and being prepared for whatever life brought her way. She said, "Every day I sing, I'm singing as if it could be my last." No one listening to those words could have imagined how prophetic they would become. But the crash is only one piece of this tragedy. To truly understand why Vanessa's loss has hit so hard, we need to look back at her extraordinary life. the career that made her a gospel legend, and the impact she had on so many people. Because her story isn't just about how it ended, it's about everything she gave the world while she was here. To understand the full weight of Vanessa Knowles' passing, we need to step back and remember the incredible journey that made her a gospel legend. Because Vanessa wasn't just a singer, she was a storyteller, a leader, and a vessel of hope for people who leaned on her music during their darkest times. Vanessa's story begins in the church pews of her childhood. Born into a family where faith and music were inseparable, she grew up surrounded by the sound of choirs, hymns, and Sunday morning sermons. Her parents often described her as a child who could carry a tune before she could even speak in full sentences. By the age of 5, she was already singing in her local church choir, and it wasn't long before people started to notice that her voice carried something different, something powerful, something anointed. In her teenage years, Vanessa became known across her community as the girl with the golden voice. Her solos during church services brought people to tears, and by the time she was in high school, she was performing at regional gospel competitions. Those early experiences shaped her understanding of music, not just as entertainment, but as ministry. She once said in an interview, "I don't sing for applause. I sing for the soul that needs healing." That sentiment would follow her throughout her entire career. Her big break came when she was invited to join a traveling gospel group in her early 20s. Touring from city to city, Vanessa found herself performing in churches, auditoriums, and festivals, often in front of audiences who had never heard of her before, but it didn't take long for her voice to win them over. Fans described her vocals as a blend of raw power and deep emotion, the kind of singing that made you feel like she was pulling straight from heaven. It wasn't just her voice, though, that made Vanessa stand out. It was her authenticity. She didn't chase mainstream fame. She didn't conform to what the industry wanted. Instead, she stayed true to her gospel roots, releasing songs that spoke directly to themes of faith, endurance, and God's grace. Her debut album, released independently, sold thousands of copies simply by word of mouth. Churchgoers would hear her sing, buy her music, and then share it with everyone they knew. By the mid-2000s, Vanessa had become a household name in the gospel community. She collaborated with some of the biggest names in the genre, shared stages with choirs that filled entire arenas, and even earned award nominations for her powerful performances. Yet, through it all, she remained humble. She often said her greatest achievement wasn't the accolades, but the letters she received from fans telling her that her music saved their lives or renewed their faith during hard times. One of her most iconic songs, a track that still gets played in churches across the country, was written during one of the darkest periods of her life. Vanessa was open about facing struggles with loss and personal hardship, and she used music as her outlet. That song, written in tears and prayer, became an anthem of hope for thousands. She later shared that every time she sang it, she felt like she was reliving that healing moment all over again, not for herself, but for the people listening. Her influence wasn't limited to the stage. Vanessa was also a mentor to younger gospel artists. She believed in passing the torch and lifting others up. Many of today's rising gospel stars credit her with giving them advice, encouragement, and opportunities when no one else would. She understood that the gospel industry wasn't just about competition, but about building a community of voices that could carry the message of faith far and wide. Despite her growing success, Vanessa never abandoned her roots. She remained deeply connected to her hometown, returning often to sing at her childhood church and participate in local events. Her ability to balance national recognition with local devotion is one reason why so many people are devastated by her loss. She never forgot where she came from, and she always gave back to the community that raised her. And here's where the story gets even more inspiring. Vanessa wasn't just preparing music for audiences, she was preparing a legacy. In recent years, she had started working on a project aimed at blending traditional gospel sounds with contemporary influences to reach a younger generation. Many believed this project would redefine her career and bring her voice to an entirely new audience. Tragically, she never got the chance to release it, leaving fans heartbroken about what could have been. Her career was a tapestry woven with faith, resilience, and passion. Vanessa Knowles wasn't chasing stardom, she was chasing souls. And that's why her loss feels so heavy today. Because in losing her, we didn't just lose a gospel singer, we lost a guiding light in the community, a woman who reminded us all that no matter what storms we face, there's always a song of hope to carry us through. But as much as Vanessa's life and career inspire us, the reality of her sudden passing has left an undeniable void, and the reactions to her death prove just how deeply she touched people everywhere. When news of Vanessa Knowles' passing broke, the gospel world seemed to stop in its tracks. It wasn't just another headline. It was the kind of news that made people pause, put down their phones, and whisper in disbelief, "Did you hear about Vanessa?" Within hours, social media was flooded with tributes, condolences, and outpourings of grief from every corner of the globe. Fans were the first to respond, many of them in shock that someone whose music had been their lifeline was suddenly gone. Instagram and Facebook filled with posts of people sharing their favorite songs, recounting stories of how Vanessa's music carried them through breakups, illnesses, or even the loss of loved ones. On Twitter, the hashtag #Remember Vanessa Knowles began trending, with thousands of users posting clips of her live performances and lyrics that had inspired them. Some fans even shared voice recordings of themselves singing her songs, calling it their way of keeping her spirit alive. TikTok creators stitched together tribute videos, montages of Vanessa's greatest performances mixed with heartfelt captions like "Gone Too Soon" and "Heaven Gained an Angel." One particular video of a young choir singing one of her most famous tracks in her honor went viral, bringing many to tears as the children raised their voices for the woman who had inspired them. But it wasn't just the fans who spoke out. Fellow gospel stars and celebrities across the music industry quickly added their voices to the mourning. Legendary gospel singers posted emotional messages about the deep void Vanessa's passing left behind. One described her as a sister in faith and a warrior in song, while another wrote, "When Vanessa sang, you felt the heavens open." Her voice wasn't just music, it was ministry. Secular artists, too, recognized her impact. A few R&B and soul singers who had either collaborated with Vanessa or grown up listening to her music called her a force and an angel whose songs taught us how to endure. These cross-genre tributes revealed just how far-reaching her influence had been. Church leaders also weighed in. Pastors from across the country took to their pulpits the Sunday after her passing to honor Vanessa. In some congregations, entire services were dedicated to her memory, with choirs performing her most beloved songs. In one church, the pastor paused mid-sermon to acknowledge her death, saying, "We lost a voice, but heaven gained a worshiper." That clip circulated online, reminding everyone of just how tied Vanessa's music was to faith itself. Perhaps the most emotional reactions came from those who had known her personally. Friends and colleagues recalled not only her musical genius, but her warmth, generosity, and humility. They shared stories of how she would stay behind after performances to pray with fans, or how she always remembered people's names even years after meeting them. One longtime friend said through tears, "Vanessa never saw herself as a celebrity. She saw herself as a servant, and that's why people loved her so deeply." In the days following the crash, candlelight vigils were organized in several cities. Fans gathered with candles, flowers, and photographs of Vanessa, singing her songs in unison as tears streamed down their faces. Videos from those vigils spread online, creating a wave of collective mourning that showed just how many lives Vanessa had touched. But here's where things get even more moving. Amid the sorrow, many fans began calling for her music to be preserved and celebrated more intentionally. Petitions started circulating online demanding that her unreleased music project be completed and shared with the world. Others suggested a tribute concert or foundation in her name to continue her mission of uplifting and mentoring young gospel artists. The reactions weren't just about grief, they were also about legacy. In many ways, Vanessa's passing reignited conversations about the importance of gospel music and its role in communities that depend on it for strength and encouragement. Fans weren't just mourning, they were reminding the world that her message of hope must continue to live on. And here's the part that stands out the most. Even in death, Vanessa managed to bring people together. People who didn't know each other from different backgrounds found themselves united in grief and gratitude. Her music had built a bridge, and in her passing, that bridge became even stronger. But as powerful as these reactions were, they also raised a critical question. What does her loss mean for the future of gospel music itself? And can the industry ever fill the void left behind by a voice so unique, so irreplaceable? When a gospel artist like Vanessa Knowles leaves this world, the loss goes far beyond the personal grief of her family, friends, and fans. It shakes the very foundation of the gospel industry. Vanessa wasn't just another singer, she was a pillar, a bridge between the old traditions of gospel and the modern expressions that reach younger audiences today. Her sudden absence creates a silence that feels deafening in the community. For decades, gospel music has thrived on the power of distinct voices, voices that can move you to tears, lift your spirit, and remind you of the presence of something greater than yourself. Think of legends like Mahalia Jackson, Shirley Caesar, or Yolanda Adams. Each of them carved a lane that no one else could fill. Vanessa Knowles belonged in that same lineage. Her voice wasn't just strong, it was unique, textured with both pain and triumph, able to make even the hardest heart soften. What made her so impactful was her refusal to compromise the essence of gospel. In an age where many artists are pressured to cross over into mainstream genres for commercial success, Vanessa stayed rooted in her calling. She experimented, yes, blending traditional gospel with new rhythms and contemporary arrangements, but she never watered down the message. That choice mattered. It meant she could reach both the grandmother sitting on the church's front pew and the teenager scrolling through Spotify looking for inspiration. She was a unifier, drawing in multiple generations under one sound. Her loss has left industry insiders questioning who, if anyone, can fill that space. It's not just about her technical skill as a singer. Plenty of people can sing. It's about her authenticity, her spiritual authority, and the fact that when Vanessa sang, you felt like she believed every single word. That kind of conviction can't be manufactured. It's something that comes from a life lived in service, a life tested by trials and anchored in faith. Producers and gospel executives have already begun acknowledging the gap she leaves behind. One well-known producer recently admitted in an interview, "We can find voices, but we can't find another Vanessa." Her sound carried both the weight of history and the hope of the future. And he's right. Vanessa was on the verge of releasing a new body of work that many insiders believed could have redefined gospel for this decade. That project, unfinished, is now both a symbol of loss and a reminder of what she still had to give. The impact of her passing isn't just creative, it's spiritual. Gospel music is more than a genre, it's a lifeline. In communities that face hardship, uncertainty, and struggle, gospel songs become medicine for the soul. Vanessa was a healer through her music, someone who could walk into a room and remind people that they were not alone. Losing that voice means losing a part of the community's heart. It leaves pastors, choirs, and everyday believers asking, how do we keep her message alive without her here to deliver it? There's also the mentorship void. Vanessa wasn't just an artist who focused on her own platform. She was known for taking young singers under her wing, offering them advice, encouragement, and even opportunities to share the stage with her. She understood that the future of gospel depended on lifting others up. Without her presence, many upcoming artists have lost a mentor who believed in them before the world even knew their names. That absence may not be seen on the charts, but it will be felt in the lives of those who were counting on her guidance. Her passing also forces a tough reflection within the industry. It's a reminder of how fragile life is and how quickly a legacy can shift from in progress to in memory. Gospel leaders are now asking themselves, are we doing enough to preserve the contributions of our legends while they're alive? Are we making sure their work is archived, celebrated, and passed on to the next generation? Vanessa's death has become a wake-up call, a painful one, but a necessary one. And yet, even in this loss, there's a powerful truth. Vanessa's music isn't gone. Her recordings, her live performances, and the memories she created are all still here. In fact, history shows us that sometimes the impact of a gospel artist grows even stronger after they're gone. Their songs become more than melodies. They become anthems of remembrance. Vanessa's voice will likely live on in churches, playlists, and hearts for decades to come. Still, the reality is clear. A voice like Vanessa Knowles doesn't come along often. She was one of those once-in-a-generation talents whose absence creates not just a gap, but a crater in the gospel landscape. And the industry, while moving forward, will always carry that scar.